Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. So many friends and luminaries here. Friends from UJA, ADL, clergy, Devorah, always great to see you. This is a momentous occasion, and I could not be more proud of our mayor and our administration for taking this important step at this critical time. So it is my great honor to introduce our mayor, Eric Adams.
Thank you. Thanks so much, First Deputy Mayor. And when you look to the left of me and right of me, you're seeing people who I've known for many years in general, but specifically I think about Devorah, who I've known since the death of her son, Ari, on the Brooklyn Bridge, right across the bridge with, at the time, the Grand Rebbe, whose gravesite I visit often, and while I'm there, I move a few feet away and stop at Ari's site and put a stone on top. And this long fight to end hate in our city, and we zero in when something just really jumps off the charts in the graphs that we analyze how severe a problem is. Jewish Americans play a major role in this country like so many other ethnic groups, but here in New York we have the largest Jewish population outside of Israel. 10% of our population, 10% of the population are Jewish New Yorkers. Yet over 51% of the hate crimes are Jewish New Yorkers. We would not tolerate that for any group. We would not tolerate that. And we can't move as business as usual when you have a population in your city that is overwhelmingly being targeted merely because of their religious or way of life. And I was extremely proud years ago when we saw what happened with the Floyd case. And people of color and goodwill Americans stood up. And the term BLM was born, and there was an immediate response. And proud throughout my time, not only as an elected, but law enforcement, to stand side by side, to march and walk and speak with people of the AAPI community when there was hate and attacks and assaults, particularly during the COVID-19. And proud to stand with LGBTQ plus communities as we fought for important issues like marriage and gender. The long record of saying in this city, hate has no place, and you cannot allow specific groups to be targeted and go on as business as usual. That is why today we're opening an office of ending anti-Semitism in this city. And I'm proud of First Deputy Mayor when we sat down and talked about what can we do? How do we both have a symbolic gesture, but most importantly, a substantive gesture? That's the role of mayor. There must be substance behind what we are accomplishing and what we are doing. And this office is extremely important. When you look at the first quarter of 2025, hate crime numbers among anti-Semitism rose to 62% of those who are dealing with any form of hate in this city. In 2024, the ADL reported a record number of anti-Semitic incidents across the country, including the highest number in New York State. The numbers are clear, and the moment calls on clarity, and it calls on strong, decisive leadership. And when you look at this office, the mayor's office to combat anti-Semitism that we're announcing today, in establishing this office to have a head-on approach and make sure that we send a very clear message that in this city, anti-Semitism cannot live, and most importantly, it cannot grow. It cannot grow in our college campuses. It cannot grow in our schools. It cannot grow in our work environment. And this office dedicated to fighting anti-Semitism is for all New Yorkers and is dealing with all forms of anti-Semitism. This is the first office of its kind established in a major city in America. And let's be honest with ourselves, it's not a Jewish issue. It is all of our issue, as in any hate on a group is an issue that we all should address. It's an attack on the very idea of New York City and what we stand for, in a place where people can live side by side in harmony, regardless of race, religion, or personal beliefs. And I want to be clear, this administration will not remain silent while our Jewish brothers and sisters are targeted with hate. They would not have to hesitate to enter the subway system should they take off their yarmulke. They should not worry about wearing a Star of David. They should not be worried that someone is lurking at a synagogue, hoping to harm them in any way. They should not have to worry about entering the campus of their schools where their children are educated and worry about being harassed or harmed. That's not the New York that I want to be the mayor over, and that's not the New York that we want to live in. The mayor's office to combat anti-Semitism will establish an interagency task force to coordinate across city agencies, contractors, and funding recipients. It will monitor court cases and outcomes of all levels of the justice system, having liaisons with New York City Law Department on appropriate cases to bring or join. And the office will have the authority to ensure city-funded entities do not promote anti-Semitism. It will be led by Moshe Davis as an inaugural director who currently serves as senior liaison for Jewish affairs in our community affairs unit. His dedicated, tireless effort of building bridges of all groups in general, but specifically weeding out anti-Semitism, makes him the right man for the right time to do the right job, to put us on the right course. He's a tireless advocate on behalf of Jewish New Yorkers, and this is the moment where he can lead this effort. And I'm proud to be the mayor of 960,000 Jewish residents who call New York City home, and as I've stated over and over again, the largest Jewish population outside of Israel. And not only that, we are a city where the greatest number of Holocaust survivors live in New York City. In 2023, when I visited Yad Vashem, you saw the devastation, the impact, and how families will always hold that pain that came from it. And when I went to Krakow in Poland and visited the camps and saw the mounds of shoes and hairs and different household items, that was a signal of how countless number of people were impacted generation after generation. And the pain was no different when I stood outside of Goree Island in Africa watching the road of the slave ships that ripped apart families and took them to die either on the crossing or on plantations. Pain is pain. And when you ignore the pains of others, you're ignoring your pain. And so we're here today to make this announcement, to be clear in who we stand for as a city. Today's announcement builds on the work we have done to keep New Yorkers safe and support our Jewish brothers and sisters. And since coming into office, we've directed the NYPD to take actions against all forms of hate crimes and violence that threatens New Yorkers. We have established the first Breaking Bread Building Bond initiative to bring people to the room and sit down and cross-pollinate ideas and culture and understanding. We established the City First Jewish Advisory Council to ensure our brothers and sisters' voices are heard and have a seat at the table. All our communities must feel at home, they must feel safe, and feel free to practice their faith in New York City. And each of us may not share the same faith, but we share the same fate. We are in this together. We're all New Yorkers, and we're going to continue to protect our communities. So I want to thank all our partners who are here. Many of you I've known for many years. We've stood side by side to make this a better and safer city. And I want to let you know, as the mayor of this city, I'm here to stand side by side with you and all of the residents, all of the culture. I don't think there has been a mayor that has shown the level of receptivity, from flag raisings to opening Gracie Mansion to having roundtables with all groups. I know what hate can do. As a 22-year veteran of the police department, responded to what hate has done. And I know how imperative it is that we address the increase that we're seeing in this city of almost a global and national anti-Semitic energy that's in this city. It must stop, and it starts with our city. I want to turn it over to the incoming director, Moshe.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. When I joined this administration, I came to celebrate Jewish life in New York City and make sure that our community's voices are heard in the halls of government. Yet, since October 7th, I never imagined that part of uplifting Jewish life compels me to expand that vision. I never thought that I would have to be stamping out fires of Jew hatred in our schools and in our streets. And we needed more tools. By establishing the mayor's office to combat anti-Semitism, our administration is taking immediate and concrete steps to address anti-Semitism at every level of city life. Under the leadership of Mayor Adams, our modern-day Maccabee, this office will be a sledgehammer, deliberate, coordinated, and unapologetic. Later this week, the Jewish community will be celebrating the legacy of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. And he teaches a very relevant parable. The parable goes that there are a few people sitting on a boat. One of them takes out a drill and starts to drill beneath his seat. The others look at him and say, "What are you doing?" He says, "This is my seat." And they turn to him and say, "Yes, but when the water comes up, it's going to drown all of us." As New Yorkers, we cannot let the loud voices of Jew hatred drill a hole in our city. We're all in the same boat. This isn't a Jewish issue. This is a New York issue. For my great-grandmother who immigrated here, for my grandmother and mother who grew up here, and for my own kids over here I'm raising in New York City, this has always been a place we can live as proud Jews. A place where I can walk in the street with a yarmulke on my head. It's our job to keep it that way. Thank you, my wonderful wife, Shauna, for being the greatest support. Thank you, Mayor Adams, for entrusting me with this role. Thank you.
Why don't we open up a few questions on this?
Joe, go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, how are you doing?
Good, how are you?
I'm good. So, former Mayor Bill de Blasio announced the Office for the Prevention of Hate Crimes in 2019, and that was specifically targeted to end, to combat incidents of anti-Semitism. Can you talk about what happened to that office? Does it still exist? Is this replacing it? Is there overlap? Can you sort of give us an overview of that?
First Deputy Mayor will dig into the weeds of it, but we still have that office, and that office is providing an important role. Some of the Breaking Bread Building Bonds initiatives, almost 1,000 dinners we have held. It still has a focus of dealing with all of our groups that are experiencing hate crimes, but the numbers are clear. You can't be 10% of a population and have 51% of the incidents. That is an imbalance, and we have to zero in on that. FDM?
Yes, to be clear, that office still exists, and it does important work about hate crimes against any group. But understand what has happened here in our city, in our country, and in our world. Here in our city, with the largest Jewish population of any city in the world, okay, We had last year over 50% of all hate crimes committed against Jews. In the first quarter of this year, we had 62% of all hate crimes committed against Jews. But it is so much more than just crimes. Look what happened on our college campuses. Columbia, Brooklyn College, just last week. We are a city that embraces. We are a city that takes on challenges. We are a city that will not tolerate anti-Semitism. The time is now for such an office. Just today, in the last 24 hours, the release of the last American Jewish hostage on October 7th. And as the mayor said, we have more Holocaust survivors living in our city today than any city in the world. We will never forget. We will never tolerate anti-Semitism in any way, shape, or form. It's not just about crimes. It's about culture. And in our city, we embrace and we reject anti-Semitism.
Hi, Mr. Mayor.
How are you?
A twofold question.
Yes, sir.
Brad Lander, the comptroller who is running in the mayoral election, said that this is a cynical move that is designed to match with your independent ballot line, and says Jews are not pawns for Eric Adams or anybody else. I wanted to ask for your response. And second, how different is this from this council, the Jewish Advisory Council, the NYPD Task Force on Anti-Semitism, the New York City Mayor's Office for Prevention of Hate Crimes?
Well, I think the political move is when Brad Lander refuses to invest pension funds into Israel because he is going to those that have anti-Jewish philosophies. That's the political move. The silliness of his political observation, when in reality I did not wake up today and state that I want to fight against hate. When the men and women you see to the left and right of me, they would tell you the long history from the days of a police officer to state senator to borough president to the mayor. I was not a candidate when I watched a bullet take the life of Ari. I stood up then, and I would stand up now, and I would stand up with no matter what position I have, and that's the consistency. They would tell you, I'm not a new friend, I'm an old friend. What was the second part?
How does this differ from any other action that the city has already taken? There's a New York City Mayor's Office Prevention of Hate Crime, there's a task force.
Yes, and I think that the first deputy mayor was clear. This is not about just crimes. It's about every aspect that feeds as you heard me use the analogy all the time, feed the river of. There are many rivers that feed the sea of anti-Semitism. One of those rivers we know is dealing with the crimes. Police department is doing that. We have a unit in the police department to deal with hate crime. But the rivers of information that we saw put out in some of our school system was playing out on our college campuses with organizations that are receiving taxpayers' dollars that are promoting anti-Semitism. We need to look at what cases we should be joining that are civil cases. So we're looking at every aspect to bring back the number of 51% of a city that has only 10% of a population is having an overwhelming amount of hate in the city. Not only crimes, but civil as well as that.
Hi.
How are you?
Thank you for all of you. Thank you for putting this together. Thank you and congratulations, Mazel Tov, Moshe. My question is, how will this office, what will change coming out of this office? You mentioned the police involvement, that's more of a reactive response. Is this going to have an educational component? Like, what will come out of this office that's different than the existing infrastructure that we have?
And I hear that oftentimes, particularly when I attend organizations and groups. There are those who have asked us to stop all the protests, the 3,000 protests we've had in the city. We can't. That's against our Constitution. We can stop people from using violence. The police department has done an amazing job when those who take the right to protest and turn it into a right to harm. We've done that over and over again. This is a country where free speech exists. We may not like the speech that's said, but this is the country we're in. But government can't not be the supporter and feeder of hate. That is why we've done the breaking bread, building bonds under Assistant Commissioner Lamona that have been organizing these meetings, putting together proactively looking at areas in our school system. We just saw a newsletter go out the other day that was despicable what they were promoting. And so we have to proactively monitor what is leaving our agencies. We cannot be the feeder of hate. And then we put the right person in charge to use his creativity on bringing in other groups and other organizations on how we can be extremely proactive to stop some of the hate that we're seeing. But it's not only going to be government. These partners that are up here, Rabbi Potasnik and I, have stood side by side when other groups have been attacked. We have been one of the loudest voices around Islamophobia, around anti-Sikhism, and other groups. And so it's not about government is going to solve the problem. We must become the conduit to ensure we bring others together to eradicate anti-Semitism. It's not going to be done just under this administration. It's going to be done by the partnerships.
Hi, Mayor Adams. I guess just more practical questions.
Yes.
Will this office be housed within the mayor's office to prevent hate crimes? And also, you know, if 63%, unfortunately, of hate crimes in the first quarter of the year were anti-Semitic, will this take away some of the work from that office? And then additionally, will Rabbi Davis have a staff? I guess just, it wasn't in the press release, so I'm just curious, the office structure, and I guess then bouncing off of Sky's question, will you work with the DOE in particular on educational?
Just to answer your question, Kate, this office will be, it's the mayor's office to combat anti-Semitism. It will be housed in the mayor's office, run as an executive director by a trusted aide and reporting directly to me. And you will see concrete action in the coming weeks. You will see executive order, legislation. You will see education. You will see monitoring. You will see us considering, working with the law department, whether there are litigations where we as a city should be bringing litigation or joining litigation to support those litigating against anti-Semitism. So stay tuned, because we are an administration that gets things done, and we will be very proactive in this regard, and the staff will be built out according to the needs under the executive director and the first deputy mayor. We are entirely committed to this cause. There's no foot off the pedal anywhere else. Hate crimes, go after hate crimes. Work with NYPD. Encourage prosecutors to bring those cases, because those acts are vile and disgusting and criminal. But we will be giving even more resources to focusing on the larger problem of anti-Semitism in our city, and you will see that manifested in all of the ways that I have just described.
So does this kind of broaden the administration's view of a hate crime, which I know obviously was a council bill in 2019 that mandated the current office to prevent hate crimes? Are you also looking, like you mentioned, the newsletter that went out with the DOE? I know last week was a story about the cancellation of the summer stage. You alluded to it with, you said, taxpayer money. Are you broadening what you view as a hate crime or an anti-Semitic hate crime to include things that some people might say is a free speech issue?
No, it's not what we view. It is what the numbers are showing. Just on the hate crimes, the numbers are clear. 10% of the population, 51% of the hate crimes. I mean, I don't know. I'm surprised we even having this conversation. Those numbers are clear. And if those numbers were any group, I don't care what the group was, we will respond. We're not going to sit back and watch 10% of the population receive 51% of the problem. And so I would be standing here if it was any group. and it's not my definition. I didn't give those definitions. I didn't do the analysis. That's the information that we sat down. We looked at these numbers, and when the first deputy mayor and I sat down, we said there's no way we could continue to allow this trajectory of hate that we're seeing across the globe. This is a global problem that we're facing, and New York is saying we're the largest Jewish population outside the country of Israel. There must be a strong response here, and that's what we're doing. Let's get to the rest of the off topics. Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Hold on, folks. Hold on one moment. No one here is going anywhere. My staff is here. They can finish this. Now, if you want me to talk about this for an hour, I'll do that, but don't ask me any other questions. So you tell me, by show of hands, what do you want me to do? Do you want me to stand here and just talk about this for an hour? I'll do that. But I know you guys have a lot of other things you want to ask me, so we're going to do that. Thank you all for coming out.
This has been breaking news.